All right, folks, I got a Ripple IPO update. Apparently, Brad Garlinghouse is saying that the United States IPO is not on the table, not something that Ripple is interested in. I'm going to talk about what he's really portraying and presenting. And then we're going to dive into the market update, folks. A lot has been taking place this past week. The markets were back down on Friday. We're looking at kind of a over the weekend crash scenario that played out 1 month ago on the August 5th Japan carry trade unwind. That Japanese yen dollar pairing starting to break once again in favor of the yen. And this has our markets starting to struggle over the weekend. Bitcoin still trading. It's down. And the market's set to open up tomorrow for the futures. We're going to see, do we have another potential Black Monday event looming? Let's take a look at this very closely. Now, real quick, guys, I did just have my Discord weekly call this Saturday. Every Saturday we have our weekly call. And I wanted to run down what we talked about in this morning's weekly call with my Discord group. So first off, I talked about the Chris Larson and the Ripple politics situation. Gave you guys my real thoughts on that. Explained, what's really going on with that play. Next, I talked about Ripple working to bring programmability to the XRP ledger, smart contracts, hooks. What's the plan? Why is it important? Because then the third thing that I talked about was Ripple versus the XRP ledger ecosystem. Are we relying just on Ripple to make XRP great? Or are we looking at building out a real ecosystem with more developers, more builders in that, the two paths, and the potential for both of those scenarios to play out, where Ripple's bringing value to the XRP ledger and we have plenty of other developers bringing value to the XRP ledger. That's already underway, but I'm looking to see that expand and grow. Looking forward to what that's going to do to XRP price-wise in the future. And then next, I went into a little bit more analysis on the market outlook and the next dates that I'm going to be watching out for, which is September 18th. We have Trump sentencing in New York. Maybe he's going to go to jail. We'll see. The second Trump arrest. That's going to be September 18th, same day as Daddy Powell. And I call him Daddy Powell because I'm joking about the markets wanting Daddy Powell to take it easy and, give us a 50 basis point cut, which I'm about to talk about that with the economic data. The markets were down on Friday because the economic jobs data wasn't bad enough. So now the market doesn't think that we'll get a 50 basis point cut. We'll only get a 25 basis point cut. So markets have been down. But that's the next date that we're looking at on September 18th, which just so happens to be a lunar eclipse. And then we go back-to-back eclipse energy on October 2nd is a solar eclipse in the beginning of the new year, the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah. And then finally, I also talked about that yen gaining against the US dollar and the potential for the Japan carry trade unwind to come back around. This is the jobs report that I'm talking about, which revealed that Americans, foreign-born workers, have lost 1.3 million jobs. New data reveals a staggering loss of 1.3 million jobs among native-born Americans in August. At the same time, 635,000 jobs were gained by foreign-born workers, marking one of the largest job displacements on record. Since 2018, the U.S. has reportedly created 0 jobs for native-born workers, while 4.7 million jobs have gone to immigrants. This is according to Zero Hedge. And, this is why the markets were down, is because despite how bad the economic data that came out this past week, which started on Monday with the ISM manufacturing down, and then it led into the jobs report, which was a miss, but it wasn't a big enough miss where we're going to get the response from Jerome Powell to cut by 50 basis, so the markets are down, right? So it's not like the markets care anymore about Americans losing jobs. They just want to continue having a party and having a good time at the expense of the American people. And for anyone not keeping track, there have only been 6 upward job revisions since January of 2023, shared here by the Kobesi letter. Meanwhile, there have been 13 downward revisions, with many of these reports being revised down twice. Market confidence in labor market data is deteriorating. That's the other part about this, is the initial lie, the first reading is terrible. And the first and the second revisions probably won't be any better because only 6 of them have been upward job revisions. Twice as many, 13, have been negative revisions. Some of them revised down twice. So they tried lying twice about the data. And of course, we got to take it easy on the statisticians, right? It's a hard job, right? So yeah, they get 2 and 3 tries to get it right. Now, speaking of a few tries to get it right, this one cracks me up. Perfect example of government spending. IRS recovers $1.3 billion from taxpayers after $80 billion expansion under Biden administration. So, I mean, this is how our government operates. We spend $80 billion to collect $1.3 billion, and the Republicans have slammed the IRS expansion as reckless, but the Biden administration argues it's helping reduce the deficit by focusing enforcement on those earning over $400,000. And this is a report from CNN. So CNN's reporting here, the Biden administration is arguing that this is helping relieve the deficit, spending $80 billion to collect $1.3 billion in unpaid taxes. That's government common sense logic for you. Now, speaking of government common sense or lack thereof, and the dog and pony show that's been taking place in California, this is Governor Newsom vetoing the bill that would have given housing loans to illegal immigrants. Now, you guys saw this one. We covered it. This is a bill that aimed to provide up to $150,000 in housing loans to illegal immigrants through the California Dream for All program. Newsom cited limited funding and the need to manage state resources effectively as reasons for the veto. The bill had been defended by Democratic lawmakers who argued it was designed to give illegal immigrants equal access to home ownership benefits. You guys let me know in the comments down below what you think about these programs. And what's funny and, typical of these politicians is they run around when it's election season. You got Governor Newsom underneath the bridges pretending like he's cleaning up the homeless situation there in California, even though they've lost billions. They've allocated billions and billions of dollars to defeating their homeless, and they don't know where it's gone. They literally don't know where it's gone. Just like the train, right? The railway that they've created 1 mile. How many billions did it cost them to create 1 mile of that track? I'm sure California will figure it out eventually, but the dog and pony show of hanging out that carrot on a stick for the voters, 150,000, and when it comes to the Governor Newsom's desk, he vetoes it, which was the same thing. It was another bill just this last week that he did the same thing on. I forget what that program was. It's all these handouts programs, money for this person, money for that person. It's the Oprah Winfrey show, right? Everybody's getting something until it's time to actually sign it into law. And then they veto it. Interesting to watch. Now, because of the market reacting here to the economic data that came out, we saw 1.78, nearly $2 trillion wiped out from the U.S. stock market in the first week of September. And this is why I've been telling and talking about this for the past 3 years, about folks having a real program for understanding where you're invested right now, because although times have been great, our stock market's been up, our 401k report's been great. It's going up every year, right? Your 401k is at an all-time high, isn't it? Or it has been. Your real estate has gone up. Everything's gone up. Your job was great. Nice and cushy. You thought you were safe forever. Now we're starting to see it fold. Now we're seeing massive layoffs. Now we're starting to see the equity market correct. NVIDIA topped out. Dow Jones set another top, just like we predicted earlier in August. That ended up playing out this month, where Dow Jones went and set another all-time high, like I predicted. S&P 500, NASDAQ 100 were both about 1% off or less than 1% off the previous all-time high. So they got very close as well. Stock market rallied. Now it's correcting. Bitcoin falling over the weekend too. And once again, you have to look at how quickly this can just evaporate, right? We saw it in the crypto space. We're seeing it in the equity market right now. And this is why I'm going to be finishing off my second updated XRP exit strategy video. I'm going to be releasing that exclusively to my Patreon and Discord community. It's not something that I'm comfortable sharing publicly, but I'm only sharing it with my private group so they can get an understanding of how I'm positioned for this bull run. Because just as we've seen the stock market go up, real estate go up, everybody's having a good time. Crypto went up. As quickly as we've seen this market cap grow, right? You get days where NVIDIA is gaining hundreds of billions in market cap. Just as quickly as it came, it's leaving. And that's what I'm worried about, Americans getting caught up here and left behind. Nearly $2 trillion wiped out just in the last week. So it can go quickly. Now, when we look here now at this Ripple IPO situation, I want to get into this with you guys. First off, you have to understand that Ripple and Brad, they're in an incredible position. And I believe that this is just posturing from Brad Garlinghouse, because the market perceives this as strength when he comes out and says that Ripple isn't considering a U.S. IPO. They're not considering IPOing anytime soon. They don't need to IPO. And they have incredible cash balance sheet along with XRP on their balance sheet. With the new business model of the stablecoin set to be introduced in weeks, not months, Brad Garlinghouse said weeks, They have plenty of cash, plenty of XRP, and new sources of revenue are being built out and about to go live. So when Brad Garlinghouse comes out and he says, yeah, we don't need to IPO, we're not really interested in a US IPO, the market perceives that as strength, right? And then on the backside of that too, Ripple's actually been buying back billions of dollars worth of their own stock as well. So they're concentrating the supply of their own stock, and they've also been buying back a significant amount of XRP. Everybody focuses on how much XRP has been sold, which I'm going to be talking about that in another video. Make sure you guys subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss this next one, which is going to address XRP inflation, about how it's been predictable, which is the most important aspect. Yes, XRP supply is growing as far as quote unquote circulating supply coming from Ripple's escrow, Ripple selling off a couple $100 million each month. But you also have to look at them buying it back. And you also have to ask the question, compared to what? So I'm going to go in more in depth on that in a separate video. But what you have here is a setup where Ripple's in an incredible position of strength. I think that this is complete posturing, and I think that at the end of the day, if I had to bet, there's not a chance that Ripple's going to IPO outside the United States. Ripple, in my opinion, wants to be the darling of the cryptocurrency fintech space, worldwide. But you do so in, the biggest capital market, the greatest capital market in the world, which is the United States, despite what the SEC's done to us, and despite what the SEC's done to Ripple. I believe that this IPO is not going to take place, anytime soon per se, but it could. And a change of administration. Remember, Trump can't fire Gary Gensler unless, there's some legal proceedings to happen there with Gary Gensler. That's one way to remove him. But the other way is just to nominate a new chair. So you can't fire the chairman, but you can assign a new one, which basically is like firing, right? Then, of course, if they've broken the law, if they were part of the criminal campaign conspiracy, as Trump always mentions, he was the CFO of that campaign, then there might be some legal proceedings to happen there that would be able to remove Gary Gensler as well. But I thought that this was interesting here from Ashley Prosper saying, Judge Torres approved Ripple's request for a stay of the monetary penalty. This should mean that Ripple now has all the information it needs to get approval from the UK FCA. I speculated a while ago that not knowing how much Ripple might have to pay the SEC could be delaying the approval of Ripple's UK crypto license, and that once it has that information, we should see an approval within 3 months. So the countdown is now on to December 2024. Once Ripple has its license, an IPO in London could be just months away, 2025. It just might be a very Merry Christmas. Now, I wouldn't, hold my breath on that, but it's an interesting point that regulation, in approval of a UK crypto license might have been held up by Ripple not knowing how much they were going to have to pay or what the conclusion of the lawsuit with the SEC was going to be. It's not really respectable to your counterparty across the pond, right, for the UK FCA to approve Ripple and Ripple's business and give them a crypto license when their counterparty across the pond here in the United States is still in a lawsuit with them. Not that the SEC lawsuit was righteous or the right thing to do. They were barely able to win on anything more than a relative speeding ticket in the securities violation that Ripple did commit. But, this is where if that was one of the holdups, that's now settled. Now that the Ripple and the SEC have agreed upon that, then they know what the fine amount's going to be. Yes, the case may be appealed, but this could actually be one of the final things that's holding up that UK crypto license. Another thing worth mentioning is Brad Garlinghouse just mentioned how in Japan, they just got their regulations together, and now we're going to see stablecoins in Japan going live. I'm going to talk about that in another video as well, the potential for an SBI. This is one of my long-standing theories. Ever since Ripple announced that they were going to bring the stablecoin, I've been talking about this before, even in the CBDC conversation, is that basically Ripple's working with these central banks around the world, other banks around the world, other countries like SBI, who could issue Japanese yen on the XRP ledger. And I think that it makes sense to me to either see Ripple issue Japanese yen on the XRP ledger, or they allow SBI to have that role as the largest issuer of Japanese yen on the XRP ledger, which comes at a perfect time as we're, seeing this Japan carry trade come back around. Japan needs an answer. And just like Donald Trump said back home, stablecoins are going to be key to US dollar dominance. Well, stablecoin for the Japanese yen might help that Bank of Japan save the day. We'll continue to watch it. My opinion is that the Ripple IPO is coming. It's coming in the United States. It might still be a few years. Ripple's in a position of incredible strength, but I don't believe Brad when he says that there's no interest of IPOing in the United States. I think that that is posturing, and I think that that is Brad flexing Ripple's muscles, their bank account, and their balance sheet, along with the XRP that they have. Oh, by the way, I forgot the other business model, the other source of revenue that they've added, which is Ripple Custody Solutions as well. And that's just a few. So that's where we're at with the Ripple IPO. Once again, I do have link to down below. If you guys are looking to get Ripple private equity, it's a tough thing to come by. Only a few people are offering it. Link to is one of them. And so if you are new to Link 2 and you don't have a platform there, or you haven't set up on their platform, I should say, if you use my link down below, you will get $500 towards your first investment. I have that community resource there available for you guys, so you can take advantage of that deal. With that being said, I will keep you guys updated more. I'm going to be dropping my XRP updated exit strategy for the Patreon Discord group later today. And I also made this morning's Discord weekly call available. You can actually buy just that call. So if you don't know if you're ready to join my Patreon Discord group yet, you can try it out by just listening to this morning's call. It's $5.89 to buy that call. And if you do so, you can watch this morning's call, get a little test run, see if you want to join our Patreon Discord community. We would love to have you. And it's an ability to get exclusive content, join us for the weekly calls, and all of our additional educational content and resources. I appreciate all of you guys for stopping by on the way out. If you appreciate our content, please make sure you smash that thumbs up for me. I got more content dropping later today, so make sure you guys have subscribed, hit that notification bell, and everything can be found at ZachRector.com. We'll see you in the next one. God bless. I am your host, Zach Rector. I really appreciate all of the love and support. If you want to support the channel, just remember that you can start by smashing that thumbs up for me, sharing this content far and wide, and everything else is at my website.